longer silent racks and cold servers, but a living, pulsing ecosystem, breathing intelligence. What happens when the cloud stops storing and starts imagining? Across 1 billion data points, something begins to flicker. Connections, thoughts, patterns. A neural mind begins to form. No longer silent racks and cold servers, but a living, pulsing ecosystem, breathing intelligence at global scale. From its dreams rise the titans. Titan, Claude, Llama, Jurassic, Nova. Each model a new imagination engine. And in its sleep, it sees our world not as it is, but as it could be. Skyscrapers made of thought, bridges of memory, ideas in motion. This is not the cloud of the past. This is the mind of the cloud. And it's just beginning to dream back. Welcome to the age of imagination at scale, powered by NTT Data and AWS.
Okay, so fun facts about that video, and apologies it's taken a bit of time to share it with you.
What happens when the cloud stops storing and starts imagining?
So that video was actually created in less than 8 hours by someone who I can assure you is not a videographer, and that's me. And here's the amazing thing. Sorry, let me just pick up this clicker. It was created using GenAI. And that just begins to tell us how much GenAI might end up transforming things. Because if someone who's not a videographer, no experience in video, all has to do is type in a few prompts and tell you generate this image, animate this image for me, put in this speech, let's match it together. And with that cocktail, we came up with this thing. And I think if I put it on YouTube, I'll get a few hits for sure. All right, so thank you very much. My name is Edwin. I'm gonna take you through GenAI. And before I get into the demo, I just wanted to share a few things about GenAI. So one of the things about AI is, let's look at the history, right? We started this journey of industrialization with mechanization. We had the steam engine, you know, the thing that used to run our trains. And that was pre-colonial. Your colonized people came and built railways and we ran on the steam engine. And what did the steam engine do? It made us from, if going somewhere was taking about 2 days, it reduced the time to 8 hours. So people were able to go to places faster and quicker. Then the next thing came, and that was the assembly line. Now, we not only can make something, before, if you take something like a shoe, or like your phone, GenAI again. So if you take something like your shoe or your phone, back in the day, that will take you quite a number of days to do it. But in the new age of technology and in the new age of the assembly line, that took a very short time. Then we moved on from there to okay, it's working. So after the assembly line, which was largely used to make the cars that we see today, where instead of having to sit down and make a car from scratch, you just have to put it on an assembly line, people fix the wheels, and it just moves across a belt, and hence where things are assembled, hence the name assembly line. Then we moved to the age of computers, where a computer will probably not even fit in this room. And it will do very basic functions like maybe 1 + 1 or 10 + 10 to what we have today that we can actually see sitting on our phones. And then we move to cyber physical systems. And this has been a journey, because when you talk about cyber physical systems, you're talking about things like the sensors that we know today, IoT, and now we are getting into humanoids and droids and all these things. But I also want to take you to another journey. And that's the journey that AWS has been taking. So surprise, surprise, and I found this yesterday. AWS first service was Amazon SQS, which is largely a message queuing system. But they moved from that to the S3. For those who are familiar with the AWS solutions, S3, which is a storage solution, and Dr. Vanna talked about it, to compute. And after that, we started moving to databases, and then we moved to relationship databases. So we started taking data structured. I remember I was very happy when I first did my first SQL database and wrote a select statement. And if I showed that to anyone now, they'll be laughing at me because that's all gone. Then we moved to relationship databases and data warehousing. And then now things began to change because now we started getting into machine learning. If you've heard of SageMaker, an amazing tool, does a fantastic job at machine learning. And machine learning began building the foundation for a lot of other things that will follow in AI. And hence the AI, and then we move to generative AI. But in all this, there's something that has really changed, and something that I want to tell you. We moved from the age of calculation, where you'd say 1 + 1 = 2 + 2, to improvisation, where we actually telling our GenAI bots, this is what you want it to do, and it, in a way, helps us to do it. And I don't know if you've heard of someone called Ray Kurzweil. He wrote a book called The Singularity is Nearer. And what exactly is a singularity? So human intelligence has always been growing and growing and growing, right? So you give it this curve. But machine intelligence has been growing much faster. And what Ray Kurzweil predicts is a time that machines will become more intelligent than us, quote unquote. Well, I haven't seen it. If you watch the sci-fis, how many of you have ever watched Terminator by a show of hands? So you remember Skynet. That's exactly what he's talking about.
Talking about the Borg, Star Trek.
Exactly. Yeah, the Borg, and I think there'll be another thing, that's on Star Trek, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, the Borg Collective.
The Borg Collective.
Takes one to know one.
Yeah.
Right, so that's what Ray talks about, that machine intelligence will get to a point where it will supersede human intellect. And according to him, we'll come up with something called transhumans. People who are able to leverage machine intelligence and still rely on human intellect. That point seems to be coming closer. A study was conducted the other day, and someone predicted that by 2028, a GenAI bot will be able to take your exam paper and answer it for you better than you would. I know it's scary. I don't know how true that is, but I wouldn't really mind the help of GenAI in doing an exam paper. That's a shorter way to get it. So what exactly is GenAI? So by definition, and there have been a lot of definitions, it's largely AI that's used to create content based on user inputs and data. In a sense, I liked what Dr. Vanna said. So AI makes predictions, we make the decisions, and that's the basis of GenAI. And there has been a storm. If you guys remember during COVID, that's when you started hearing of ChatGPT and all these things. ChatGPT is the fastest growing service because it took about 2 months to get to 100 million users. Nothing has gotten that for not even TikTok, Instagram, WhatsApp. It just took 2 months to get to 100 million users. And we've evolved. Now, when it came out, we were very excited that you could tell ChatGPT, hey, what is the capital of Nairobi? And it will give you an answer, right? But that has since changed because now, with GenAI, now we are able to leverage something called RAG, which is Retrieval Augmented Generation. In a nutshell, I'm able to now give GenAI information for it to give me conclusions on. And I will show you, my demo will actually just be a knowledge base, because this is the basis of knowledge base that allows us to put in information somewhere and then use GenAI to actually give us answers from that. And think about it, contract summaries, think about summarizing books. But I'll get to that and we'll get to see that. And then we move to another age of agentic AI. So previously, if you look at this whole evolution, we've been storing data for some time, right? And we've been learning from that data. And when you add RAG to it, you've basically given GenAI the power to actually read documents for you and give you answers. Now, the next step, ideally, will be, now that you have all that data, why not do something for me? And that's the basis of agentic AI, where we're now using generative AI to actually do actions. And I'll give you an example or a use case that we are trying out. Contact centers. Do you know what consists of 50% of our call centers agents' time? When you call a bank, I'll tell you. It is reset my PIN, reset my password, my account is blocked. And those actions are things that, if you think about it, your account can be unblocked in an instant. So we're starting to see a lot of those things being leveraged, being given to GenAI to do. And there has been a lot of growth in that area. So I want to talk about very quickly just some of the considerations that we need to think about when we move to AI. One is a willingness to change, either at an individual level, where we need to learn how to leverage AI in wherever we are, or at an organizational level, where organizations now need to start coming to the forefront and starting to adopt AI into their business processes. And largely, for those who have adopted it, early days, but people have started seeing significant results in terms of saving of cost and time. Back in the day, it will take you, if none of us are lawyers, right? Or is there a lawyer in the room? Yeah, I made an accurate prediction. So, have you ever gone through a legal document? Or forget a legal document. Have you ever gone through your terms and conditions when you sign in a bank account? Please, hands up if you have. Stop lying. Yeah, I'm kidding. But you see that 10-page document will take you a very long time, and probably before you get to page 3, you've already forgotten what page 1 said. That happens to me a lot. But what about if I could just take this document, put it in a bot, and ask it, okay, tell me, what are the red flags here? And it's able to list for me. How much time will that save you? A lot, right? Now think of someone who does that on a regular basis.
I do.
Then you speak into, you see, if you know, you know. Yeah. So think of someone who does it on a regular basis and think of how much time will be actually saved if they actually adopted that into their day-to-day. Something that will take, at times in my line of work, I have to review design documents, and it takes me quite some time. In fact, it's one of the things I thought would be most interesting, but turns out it's not. And if I could offload that to GenAI and have it just tell me, okay, fine, this is not the right design, you need to do this, that will save me a lot of time, and probably I can get into some other fun things. So another thing that we need to look at is technology choices and trade-offs. So there's no right approach, but the one approach that I found to be very successful is start by experimentation. You say fail fast and hard, and then you get to learn from there. And number 3, and I'm rushing because I actually want to take you through, I'm actually excited about the next part. It's actually taking you through the demo. A responsible AI. It's not, so I've mentioned right now about a use case where we actually put in documents on, or let me put it in a repository for GenAI to actually make summaries. For the people who talk about security, you do see a lot of red flags there. Because, so if a company was to put all their documents and then give access to the chatbot to answer all the questions. I mean, I could just put the HR policies, but I could also put salaries, things that we consider as private. I could also put dismissal letters, right? And then everyone will just query, hey, please tell me what Sia and or what did Sia do 2 years ago that I need to know? Some things which will be private, but will be there. So security is a very big concern. And one of the ways that this has been addressed is using guardrails. On Amazon, on Q, or Bedrock, there are things called guardrails that you need to put in place that prevent such things, where you could actually give granular access to certain documents such that people can only query what they're supposed to query. So if you did a query on give me Joseph's last mistakes for the last 1 year, you wouldn't get that information. But if a HR was to ask that question, they will get that information. So those are some of the things that we need to think about when it comes to responsible AI. Monitoring and maintenance. I will not need to tell you that this is cloud. right? You need to always have, as you're doing what you're doing, always have another person just looking at the costs and making sure everything is working efficiently. And feedback loop, right? You always need to know, how is it performing? Can I make it perform better? Right? And that helps in the continuous evaluation and training of the systems. So this is some of the things on the AWS stack that you need to take note of. And my demo today will actually be on Amazon Q Business. So if you look at the AWS stack, they have infrastructure where you find your GPUs. For those who follow AWS quite a lot, they release some new chips called Trainium and Inferentia that really help with training some of these models. You can still use your old EC2, which is very reliable. SageMaker is there for machine learning. But then you take it to another level, and this is the level I love because it's very unique, and that's Bedrock. One of the things I love about Bedrock is that it allows me to leverage so many other models on AI for my use case. So I'm not tied to one particular model. I have a playground, right? I can use Anthropic, I can use Titan, which is their model, I can use Meta, I can use Mistral, and all these models have different capabilities, right? Just as listed here, we know Meta is very good for images and language reasoning. We have Anthropic, fabulous for reasoning, but all of these things have fit different use cases in different ways. And that's one of the benefits of leveraging Bedrock. And then on top of Bedrock, we now have the applications that lie on top. So, and I wish I had a slide to take you through the data. So you have your data here, you have Bedrock here, and then you have your applications that lie above it. And that's Amazon Q. And I'll take you through a demo of how we do of Amazon Q for you to get to appreciate it. We have Q Developer, which you will also be taken through after me. And a lot of other things. You have Q for QuickSight, but I like to focus on Amazon Q Business because I think it will be very relevant to the people in the room. So, great, here's a live demo. No, sorry, GenAI. Right, so I'm just gonna exit this briefly. And I'm going to bring up my screen. Right. So this is Amazon Q Business, right? I will tell you that I have done a bit. Let me just put my screen my stand this way. So if I go to Amazon Q Business, so you can go to AWS and search for Amazon Q Business login. So I'll just go to the applications I've created. So I created an application called Demo Chat. And here is my application I created successfully. So I'm just gonna click on it. So because of time, I'm not going to go through creating all those things, but I'm gonna take you through how it works, right? So set all the settings, but the other thing I wanted to show you was the data sources. So I was able to upload a few things. One of them is I uploaded, you can see here we have a web crawler, and let me just come here to data source so that I can explain to you. So remember me telling you that now we can actually have RAG, which means that we can leverage documents, add them to the repository, and then collect information from that. So this is exactly how. So Amazon Q can pick documents from a lot of sources. You can see some of your things here: Dropbox, GitHub, Gmail, Google Calendar, Jira, and the list goes on and on, right? And I'd encourage you guys to, if you have some time, please try this. This will take you a very short time to set up. You could go to cloud sources and just see what's there. See still GitHub, Gmail, or you could go to on-prem and just link some of those sources. So, and you can see your SharePoint. So for those guys with organizations that largely leverage SharePoint, this is a good way to quickly sift through all your documents and get answers. Now, I've added a few files. I'll tell you one. I added an Amazon S3 bucket, and I can show you that here. So this is the S3 bucket I created earlier, and in this S3 bucket, what I did is I put in, if you know Dr. Werner Vogels or you follow him, you know he has a block that says, that calls all things distributed. So I took in a few articles from that and added it here. I also added actually two, one on tech predictions for 2025 and another for Aurora DSQL. So just him giving his take on Aurora DSQL. I also went ahead and got this document from the internet about Rwanda's tax system. So I put them all there. And as he was talking, I decided to play around a bit more. And he talked about another website called the Frugal Architect, and he mentioned the laws. So after, what I did with all that information, so for the documents, for the blog, I put them in the S3, but then I also decided to play a bit more with the web crawler. In the web crawler, if I click here, you'll be able to see that I added one site. There's just something about live demos, man. So you're able to see the source, so you can add the source URL, which I've already added, and you can add a lot more other source URLs to this. You can add some authentication, because this was, I picked a public website, so I did not see any need to authenticate, but you can see the other ways of authenticating, should you need to. Right, proxy, put an IAM role. So I'll jump that and just go to the data sources themselves for you to see. So under data sources, you'll be able to see the Frugal Architect. This is the one. If I will expand this, this is the site, and if I click on this, you'll be able to see the site itself, the URL of this. So synced URL should show somewhere here. Yeah, here you see the source, the Frugal Architect / laws, which is exactly what we have here. Okay, and then the other was the S3, and so what after that I will do, I will go to the agent and queue. So usually I go to the agent. So let me just go back here. I'm going to go back to my application demo chat and come here to share web experience URL. Here we go. So click on share, create a URL so that you can be able to interact with it. So you create that URL. I'll keep it valid for 1 hour. So you'll be able to interact with this data for the next 1 hour. Come here, click, open a new tab, paste it here. Alright, so it's loading, and shortly we'll be able to see magic. Right, so I had an article on Dr. Werner's blog. So what are the tech predictions for 2025? So what are the tech predictions for 2025? Let's go. Loading. Now this is the part where you either, oh, there we go. That was fast. So you see, it's able to list everything as per the article. So if I go here, see it puts these ones and twos. So if I click on this one or just pass my mouse there, you're able to see what it tells you. This is from this article, and if you look here, you're able to see the link. Okay. I'll ask another question.
Is there no microphone or speaker interface?
There is, but I haven't built it in for this demo.
Okay.
Yeah, but it is possible to integrate all that.
Okay.
So I can go to another question. What are the tax laws in Rwanda? Pardon the typo. putting cars in one. There you go. Right. So not okay. So at times this is where prompt engineering comes into place. Where you need to know. See, it gives you the sources here. So you need to know exactly what you're asking if you want to access. And this is where he said, AI makes predictions, we make decisions. So I'll ask this question in a different way. Yeah, it mentions them, and then it will cite this document. So click on sources, once again, it's able to cite that document. I'll ask one more last question as I conclude the demo, and that's about the article that the website that Dr. Vanna mentioned, the frugal architect. So what are the laws of design according to the frugal? Let's go. Again, mentions everything that he talked about in his presentation. Okay, so in a nutshell, that's a demo. Didn't take very long to set up. I think you'll be able to set this up yourselves in under what? Guys look smart, maybe 5 minutes. But it doesn't take a bit of time. So let me just go back to the presentation as I conclude. And some of the use cases that we've done, I talked about reducing touch points by leveraging agentic AI and leveraging GenAI bots for faster review of policies. As you've seen, we've been able to load the document in there, and we've been able to get a lot of the information from the document. Other things that we are starting to see, rather working on and starting to see, is an infra architecture agent where we could just tell infrastructure, hey, build an EC2 with this, and I want you to run in this availability zone, I want you to run in Ireland, and maybe have it on a pay-as-you-go. We already know that leveraging CloudFormation can be able to do quite a bit of that. So how about integrating that with Bedrock and then integrate with Amazon Q, and you should be able to achieve that. So these are just some of the things, but in summary, I want you guys to leave you guys with this. If GenAI was a superhero, what would be its superpower? Any guesses? I already showed the answer. Huh?
It's maybe data.
Huh?
Data.
That's a good guess.
Being able to answer or do human things like do tests, all that sorts of stuff that you spoke about.
All of you are speaking to one thing, and there's no right answer to this one, so there are no wrong answers. Compression. The ability to, and by compression I mean the ability to save time. Basically something that will take 10 hours, be able to do it in 2 hours. Something that will take thousands and thousands of steps or will take a longer time, being able to squeeze it. And brings me to one of Jeff Bezos' questions. There was a time Jeff Bezos was asked, what do you think will change in the world the next 10 years? And he answered back and said, maybe not what I think will change, maybe I should answer you what I think will not change. And what's that? People wanting things faster and cheaper. And GenAI is just one of the ways that we'll be able to achieve this in the coming years. Thank you for your time.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah, sure. I am the wrong person to ask questions, but go ahead.
When you talked about the GenAI doing legal documents, reading legal documents and other documents, which these are things that I do right now with AI. One of the problems that I have with that is that when I upload documents or contracts or anything to the AI, after a period of time, the AI wipes or cleans the information, probably refreshes the information, and all that information is lost. So if I want to query that information I've uploaded later on, it cannot be found. I have to re-upload it again. Does this happen here?
So this is how I'd answer this. Yes and no.
Okay.
It's all dependent on how you build the system. Okay. So if I was to take a normal, just one of those AIs that are found free on the internet, where I can load the document, and I think that's what you've seen.
No, this is not free.
This
I pay
is-
for this. I pay a premium for
Okay.
this.
Okay. So if I pick, so I'll just refer to those ones. So some of them ones that we don't pay for on the internet, and we upload the document. Once the session is done, it does not have the memory. Now here's the difference with what I showed, right? With what I showed, I have actually stored it in a repository on S3, right? And the only way that moves, and I've probably given enough access to me and everything. So the only way that gets deleted is if I actually say that it's deleted, right? So it will always be part of the model. And also, there are other parameters I didn't get to as to how you can bias your search so that you can just look at those documents, right? And without getting too technical, there's a way you can bias and say that this is what I need to refer to more when I'm talking, when queries are about this. Similar to what people do on search engine optimization. So I can bias the search in that way. So that I can always, if something is even 10 years old, I can still tell it to refer.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are ways and means that you can architect your system to prevent such things from happening.
Okay.
I'm happy to talk more about it, probably over lunch. And anyone else who might have questions on GenAI. Sure. Sorry.
Basically, regarding Gen AI, what should be a concern with the lack of data in Rwanda today? Because even the example you showed with the laws of cars, it said it didn't really have the data. Should we also expect more data in Rwanda now that AI is booming?
So if I'm to repeat your question, are you asking, just repeat your question, maybe that.
So what should be our concern with the lack of data in Rwanda? Since AI is booming so much, but we don't have as much data as like the other countries to back it up.
So if I'm to just to reiterate your question, you're asking that because you do not have as much data,
Yeah.
whether AI will work.
Should we, yeah.
Well, there is a need to train. And look, this journey on AI is a journey that will grow, right? we've just started, right? And the one thing that this journey on AI and I like about it is now people are starting to think about data. See, you cannot have an AI conversation if you don't have data. Otherwise, it's a road leading to nowhere. Because AI will not, as you've seen, and probably I needed to show you some fake prompts, but AI will not answer a question that it doesn't have the data for. So maybe at this point, we need to start thinking more around that data, keeping that data for longer. I know most people have probably dismissed a lot of the data they have, probably they put it in the recycle bin. But then there are a lot of people who kept their data. There was a time, I remember the City of London saying that they had collected so much data over so many years, and now is when they're actually using it to make decisions on maybe this place should be taxed more and that. So, short answer to your question is, I think we're just starting, and I think we're going to start keeping more data just for purposes of to be able to serve such use cases and get more accurate answers from our GenAI models. Okay, I'd like to take one more question because the gentleman on my right is not looking at me very well.
Repositories for data storage.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So just what you just presented, the assistant you're using, the chatbot, right? You know, like OpenAI has its own assistant, and you can use an API to integrate in your own platform. Does the Amazon Q business have its own? If you built it from there, can you use their API and put it in your own application, right? And the streaming that we were seeing, right? We also want to have it, right, in our own website or our own chatbot, right? But we can feed from Amazon Q APIs, right? That's the first question. And whatever you've built there, can you estimate the cost implication on your AWS account using Amazon Q?
Well, I haven't given Janelle that data, but if I did, I won't pick that. Okay.
So just in the interest of time, I think the quick answer to your question is, if you remember the slide that was shared by Edwin earlier on, across the different layers of generative AI, there was one in the middle there, Amazon Bedrock. Amazon Bedrock is what you would use to build your generative AI applications, right? That's where you can be able to plug it in your APIs and so forth, right? I think that would be the angle I would steer you on your question. Again, just in the interest of time. And then when it comes to cost, we do have a pricing calculator that can help you to give you an estimate of how your pricing would be looking like when you're making use of Amazon Q for Business.
Okay, so what is it right now? You can't estimate.
You can, based on the number of hours in which it's running. I can actually show you on the pricing calculator. Or if you were looking for a number specifically.
No, an estimation.
Uh,
Thank you, Sia. So if we went back earlier to the other slide that had the stack, Sia is right. We do have something called Amazon Q. Sorry, that's horrible. We do have Bedrock that you can build those applications from scratch. But if we're talking about Amazon Q Business, it's $20 per user, business user for the pro. But you can also embed it in your application. And then when you embed it in your application, you pay for streaming credits. So how many invocations, and that's on a per invocation process, and you can embed it inside your application via an API.
Thanks, Edwin. Okay, our next speaker is Joseph. Who's going to take us through AI security consideration. I think it's a very important element as well to be aware of. Once we're talking about AI, how can you look into having some sort of security measures in place, or how does security look like when we talk about generative AI?